Touchdown BC is sponsored by the Robertson Braun Group, Remax Kelowna. Thinking real estate in Kelowna? Think Blake Roberts and Marlene Braun. For more information, call 250-212-2888 or 250-878-5242.
Welcome to Touchdown BC Episode 2. I'm your host, Adam Kordick. This week, we will be recapping the BCFC, tell you about a BC native that is getting a shot in the NFL, and much, much more. Now it's time to get into the action. We are 1 week away from being halfway through the BCF season, and what a season it has been so far. Lots of great football being played between all 6 teams. This past weekend, the Okanagan Sun looked to stay undefeated as the 2-1 VI Raiders took a trip to Kelowna for a rematch of last year's Calling Cup championship game.
Raiders versus the Sun. Second Q, Lane Hall picks off a Jake LeBurge pass which would lead later to an Okanagan touchdown. Next Sun drive, Foster Martins finds Liam Wishart for the 9-yard major. Sun up 2 scores. Raiders would respond on their next drive. LeBurge rolls out of the pocket, eluding Sun pressure and airs it out to find a wide open Dustin Rodriguez for a 79-yard touchdown pass. Sun up at the half. Sun would be too strong though in the fourth, blocking a punt and returning it for a touchdown. Okanagan then puts the game away with this pick from Connor Richard. Okanagan remains undefeated, beating the VI Raiders 37-19. VI drops to 2-2 after the loss and will host Langley this week in Nanaimo. Okanagan goes to 4-0 after a great defensive performance and will play the Kamloops Broncos this weekend. Rebels taking on the Broncos. In the second, the BCFC's leading rusher Jamel Lyle uses his speed and he is gone for the 47-yard touchdown run. West Shore up 10-zip. Broncos would respond on their next drive. Colby Hankel throws it up to a streaking Colin Mather. He is able to haul it in. We got a 3-point game. Kamloops' next drive, Hankel finds Mather again. Mather beats a couple defenders, but as he is about to score, he fumbles. But it's Brody Bernier, who's Johnny on the spot, who dives on it for a touchdown. Broncos take the lead. West Shore would regain the lead on this Trey Campbell TD run. The Bronx air show would continue though. Hankel finds an open Romanovich in the end zone for the 26-yard touchdown pass. This seesaw battle would continue. Just before half, it's Campbell again, this time from 9 yards out. West Shore up 24-21 at the half. Second half, Lyles takes the handoff from Borden and goes yard for the 40-yard touchdown run. Kamloops would score right after, but 5 minutes left. West Shore would put this game away. First, Scott Borden with a bullet to Brahanu Gitna for the 19-yard major. Then later, Lyles gets the rush TD Hattie. West Shore wins this one 45-32 over Kamloops. The Rebels show that they will have a run game that will be hard to stop this season. They will travel to Chilliwack to play the Huskers this Saturday. Kamloops has yet to win a game but has proven that they compete with the best of the BCFC. They will travel to Kelowna this Saturday to take on the Sun. To the last BCFC game we go. The Langley Rams beat the Valley Huskers 41-16 to move to 3-1. This Saturday, they will travel to Nanaimo to play the VI Raiders. The Valley Huskers drop to 0-4 and will host the West Shore Rebels this weekend. Now let's take a look at the standings. The Sun are still on top with a record of 4-0, with the Rebels and the Rams just 1 game behind. With the loss, VI drops to 2-2. BCFC Offensive Player of the Week for Week 4 is West Shore Rebels running back Jamel Lyles. The Lord Tweedsmuir alum ran all over the Broncos defense. He carried the ball 26 times for 238 yards and 3 touchdowns. The BCFC Defensive Player of the Week is Okanagan Sun linebacker Lane Hull. Although his stats might not jump out at you on paper, Lane was dominant all game long against the Raiders and showed why he is one of the best linebackers in the BCFC. BCFC Special Teams Player of the Week is Okanagan Sun kicker Keely Heinz. Heinz had 7 punts averaging 36 yards, was 3 for 3 in field goals, and was perfect on his converts against the Raiders.
This week in Nanaimo, the 3-1 Langley Rams take on the 2-2 VI Raiders. We talked with the Rams head coach, Kerry Joseph, and got his thoughts on what he expects from the VI Raiders.
It's going to be a physical game. It always is with them, and it's always tough to play in Caledonia. We just have to be disciplined, be prepared to match their intensity and surpass it, and execute. Everybody has to execute their job. So it's going to be a great game. It's going to be a great battle. I respect that organization and coaches, so it's going to be fun.
We also caught up with head coach of the VI Raiders, Jerome Erdman, and got his thoughts on the Raiders' upcoming game against the Rams.
I know their offensive coordinator very well, Sean Olsen. He's a great football coach. Very, very good. We expect to have our hands full defensively against them. Like you said, they've been on a bit of roll after losing the first game to West Shore, and they've been getting better and better each week. It's going to be a real challenge for us.
If you are in the Nanaimo area, that game is this Saturday. Kickoff is at 2 p.m. at Caledonia Park. This week in Kelowna, the 0-4 Kamloops Broncos take on the first place 4-0 Okanagan Sun. These two teams played back in week 2, where it was the Sun defeating the Broncos 45-30. We talked with the Broncos head coach Brad Yamoka and got his thoughts on what he expects in a rematch against the Okanagan Sun.
I think we, providing we come out and we play a solid game, I think it'll be a lot of the same. I mean, it's only been a couple weeks since we saw them last, so I don't know if ever, either of us have put in a ton of new things, but at the same time, the athletes are all going to be generally the same, and we just got to go out there and perform. So the big thing for us is we got to be able to go out on the road and perform. So the first 2 games we've played on the road haven't been spectacular, so we need to figure out something that we can go to somebody else's park and have a decent game.
We also caught up with head coach of the Okanagan Sun, Ben McCauley, and talked to him about what he expects in the game against the Kamloops Broncos.
I think more of the same. I think, they're desperate to get into the win column. And, there's nothing more dangerous than a team with nothing to lose. And, unfortunately for them, we're also in a situation where we feel like we got away with one against VI. And we played poor offensively and defensively in special teams to start the game. And, this week is going to be a big kick in the pants for them throughout the week of practice and getting back to some of the stuff that we know we can do. And, we're going to worry about Kamloops too much because, we know what to expect of them physically, and we're going to get a lot out of them as far as, fight and passion. But what we got to do is challenge ourselves to be better, and use ourselves as a measuring stick. And, if we thought they were tough the last time we played them, they're going to be much tougher this time. So, Brad's a great coach. Emotionally, those guys have been right there in a lot of games. So, they're just, a few big plays away from turning the tides.
If you are in the Kelowna area, the game between the Kamloops Broncos and the Okanagan Sun is on Saturday. Kickoff at 7 p.m. at the Apple Bowl. This week in Chilliwack, the 3-1 West Shore Rebels take on the 0-4 Valley Huskers. We talked with Rebels head coach J.C. Boyce and got his thoughts on what he expects in the Valley Huskers.
I think they've done a good job of recruiting. I know they're yet to win a game, but I think they've been competitive. I know they throw the ball really well. I've seen that they've been explosive through the air. But for us, it's going to be another opportunity to travel, another opportunity to do our job well. And if our O-line does a good job, I think we're gonna run the ball between the tackles very well. Jamel Lyles had 238 yards. Trey Campbell had 158 yards. So we've got a great 1-2 punch with those two behind that offensive line, and we're gonna do our best to control the line of scrimmage and run the ball, and we're looking forward to that.
I also talked to the coach of the Valley Huskers, Jason Quinter, and talked to him about the run game he is about to face from the West Shore Rebels.
I don't think they'll deviate from it. They're very good at it. They're a great offensive line. They're big boys, and they've got 2 really good running backs. It's not just Jamel. Jamel obviously is very good, but they've got the other kid, number 4, and I forget his name. I apologize, but he's a good running back in his own right. So, and then they've got both their quarterbacks can run. So they are they're a multi-headed monster, and we have to be able to stop them.
Well, there you have it. If you are in the Chilliwack area this Saturday, the game between the West Shore Rebels and the Valley Huskers starts at 1 p.m. at Exhibition Stadium. On July 14th, Vancouver native and Vancouver College alumni Rashawn Simoni signed a free agent contract to play for the Cincinnati Bengals. The star receiver from the Calgary Dinos was a dominant player in the CIS the past 3 years. Last year, he was a first-team All-Canadian where he had 65 catches for 1,300 yards and 11 touchdowns. This past weekend, in his pro debut, Simoni showed right away that he belongs in the NFL.
In his debut, Simoni showed off all his skills catching the first ball that came his way. This 47-yard catch definitely caught the eye of his coaches. We will keep you up to date on his pursuit for a spot on the regular season Cincy Bengal roster.
I'm LeGarrette Blount. I play for the New England Patriots, the running back. You're watching Touchdown BC.
UBC's quest to win back-to-back Vanier Cups began this season with the start of training camp. We talked to former UBC offensive lineman and KCU analyst Gord Randall to get a preview of what fans can expect from the T-Birds this season. Joining us now to talk UBC is Gord Randall, football analyst for KCU and Can West Game of the Week. Gord, thanks for joining us.
No problem, Adam.
Gord, I don't think anyone expected UBC's dominance in the CIS last year. What should we expect from the Thunderbirds this season? And do you think they have what it takes to win back-to-back national championships?
Well, I, for one, definitely did not expect UBC to be this good this soon last season. I had said from the outset with Blake Nill taking over that this was going to be a multi-year process because a lot of the guys he was bringing in had a ton of talent, but were young guys. You think of Michael O'Connor. You think of not so much Taylor Loeffler, but you think of some of the other talent he brought in across the board. I thought this was going to take a couple years to click. There was going to be a bit of a transitory period, and there was early on in the season, but really it was only about 2 or 3 games, and then they really started hitting their stride. And by the end of the year, I'd say they were full value for that national championship win as the best team in the country. Now, looking forward to this upcoming season, expectations for reigning national champions are always sky high. But for the UBC Thunderbirds, I think they're particularly high because of that same dynamic that I talked about. Now, that's going to be mitigated a little bit because they lost a lot of guys to the CFL. We'll talk about a little later on here. But the Thunderbirds have everything in the tool chest to reload and be right back on top of the Canada West at the very least this year.
And now you mentioned Michael O'Connor in his very first year, obviously leading the team to a Vanier. What can we expect for him in his second year? It seems like he's just going to get better and better.
Well, you know, I said for the second half of last season that Michael O'Connor, I mean, the scariest thought if you're an opposing coach in the Cam West is Michael O'Connor has 4 more years of eligibility and could be there for all of them, particularly given the way the CFL notoriously views Canadian quarterbacks. This guy, we saw him start sitting in the pocket a lot better the second half of last year, making tougher throws in traffic. One of my biggest critiques of O'Connor early on in the year was when he got pressured, he started to panic and kind of fling things around the field. And he did a lot better job later in the season of sitting in the pocket, delivering under pressure, and that was the biggest change for him. And you see his numbers take a big leap at about week 4 last year. And who knows how high this guy can go. I mean, keep in mind his pedigree is as high as any Canadian quarterback we've seen maybe ever. So it'll be really interesting to see how he grows and takes the next step this year.
And now to the run game, Brandon Deschamps was a force down the stretch and helped them win many of those games leading into the playoffs. Now that he's gone, how do things stack up in that backfield this year?
Well, it's going to be led by, I believe, Marcus Davis. Marcus Davis is a guy that learned to run between the tackles a little bit better as last year progressed. That's still a work in progress for him. He still wants to be a slasher, a scat back type, and that may be the biggest difference. They may still have success in the running game, but they may have to kind of fundamentally change their running game because Brandon Deschamps, his nickname was Banger for a reason. This guy was a between the tackles, upfield, run you over, smash mouth type of guy. Marcus Davis just isn't that guy. Now, barring somebody new and a name that we don't yet know emerging as a real physical type of back, they may have to change the type of running game that they employ. But I still think they'll be effective because we've seen Marcus Davis, particularly on special teams and playing as a slot back. He's an elite athlete, so he's certainly got the skill to be able to be the bell cow in that backfield. I just think you might see some more outside type of running instead of some straight up the gut stuff.
And now you were saying on the defensive side of the ball, they lost Terrell Davis and Taylor Loeffler, arguably, obviously, the best players on that defense, to the CFL. They were leaders. Who steps up and fills their shoes?
Well, and you can't forget Nick Termanson, another guy who's now playing the CFL with the Montreal Alouettes, and as well as Barnett, who's also playing for the Hamilton Tiger Cats. So they've got lots of top-end guys to replace from that defense. One of the guys that we want to talk about a little bit more later is Stavros Katsatonis in the backfield. He's going to be a leader from back there. And I think that young defensive line that we saw really hold the fort towards the end of last year can be a big anchor for them as well. Another guy who's coming back in the middle of that defense, Dylan Chapdelaine, will be directing things to the linebacking core. I think he's a guy as well. But they've got the one thing that Blake Nill's always shown the best ability to do in this country is reload with guys who are able to step in and compete right away. So I think that he's always got that second man ready to go behind his stars, and there will be somebody ready to step in.
Katsatonis turned a lot of heads last season. A lot of big picks down the stretch in crucial times in the game. Do we chalk that up to beginner's luck, or is this guy the real deal and this is going to happen again this year?
Well, he's certainly got the pedigree. His dad was a CIS and I think a CFL guy as well. He's a little bit small, only about a 5'11" guy, but he's a halfback naturally, or at least he was last year. And he's got that bulldog mentality. He loves to blow guys up. He loves to be physical. He loves to make big plays, and he seems to have a nose for the ball. And even before in the playoffs where he really shined and made some really high-profile plays, was really liking his game, very solid and fundamentally sound. So I think that he's going to be a real anchor for them back there, and I think that you may see big things from Katsatonis throughout the season this year.
Now to the coach, like what Blake Nill did in his very first season is almost unprecedented and obviously not expected. But now going into this season, and obviously people are thinking they could do back-to-back. What does Blake Nill tell his players in order to prepare them for this season and the expectations?
Well, Blake Nill's done this before. He's done the national championship thing before. He's turned a team around before. He knows how to handle this better than probably anybody in the country. And people forget that when he first got to the University of Calgary, turned that program into the Can West champion within 2 years as well. Now, coming back, I think his big message is just, I don't really care what we did last year. Right? It doesn't matter what we did last year. And he's notoriously a guy who's going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. He's never going to be content, and he won't put up with anybody who does show any level of contentment. One thing you may see that a strategy is that a lot of coaches use is you may see a guy that we saw starting for most of last year, a fairly prominent guy who doesn't start to begin this year just because for whatever reason he hasn't shown up and performed this year. It's a good message to send as a coach. You may see something like that occur, but Blake Nill is a guy that you can absolutely trust to keep this team performing at a high level and keep them motivated.
And now to the recruiting class and UBC's recruiting efforts in the offseason. Who should we keep our eyes on in that group?
Well, they did their traditional really good job of keeping a lot of the province's top talent in-house, and I'd say that list is headlined by Parker Simpson. Now, there are questions about Parker Simpson, how much he's going to be focused on football. He's also playing basketball at UBC. Now, from what I've heard from both UBC football guys and UBC basketball guys, he's a football guy. He's on that basketball team because he's a good basketball player, but he's on that basketball team because he's an athlete and he's an excellent kid. He's a football player and a heck of a football player. He's a guy that you might see have some impact right away. They also brought in a couple of American offensive linemen last year who were ineligible to play that now will be eligible. And that offensive line, while they seemed to get the job done last year, was always one injury away from potentially being a complete debacle. So that's another area where they may be able to be strengthened by some incoming recruits as well. But you'll see names pop up across the board as we saw last year. We saw guys like Dylan Chapdelaine, not particularly heralded, that ended up playing a good chunk of that year and being an impact guy for them. So Blake Nill has this knack of finding diamonds in the rough, so you expect to see a few of those pop up as the season progresses.
Well, thanks, Gord. That's Gord Randall, football analyst for KCU and Can West Game of the Week.
Jim Mullen sat down and talked to former BCFC player and current president of the Langley Rams, Dana Matheson, for a segment we like to call BCFC Grads, Where Are They Now?
Dana, I want to talk about your journey in football. Take me through it all the way from minor through junior football and into university football.
Sure. So I started my minor football career. I played locally in Langley. I then moved over and played in Cloverdale, Cloverdale Midget. From there, I played with the Abbotsford Air Force in the late 90s. And that team kind of went through some struggles and some turmoil, and I had kind of transferred over and played for the South Fraser Rams for the Bushler brothers. From there, my football career took me to Halifax. I played for the St. Mary's Huskies, played for Coach Neil out there, won a Vanier Cup. That was exciting. And from there, that was kind of the end of it. When I left university football, I came back. I coached a couple years with the South Fraser Rams. I coached the O-line in 2004, 2005. From there, I kind of got brought back into the fold, and I was the head coach of the Langley midget football team, the Stampeders, in 2008. That was a kind of a difficult period. My son was born, my first child, and that was kind of in the infancy of this business. I didn't have a lot of time to devote to football at that point in time, so I had to kind of focus on business and having my first child. So I stepped away from football, and up until last year, I was asked if I would kind of come back, get involved with the Langley Rams, and I was brought on as the vice president under Gord Quern, who was our current vice president, who was president for about 8 seasons with the Rams, and to transition into the team president, and that's kind of the position I hold right now.
Tell me what it is about the game of football that keeps drawing you back into it.
It's in my blood. I love football. In my opinion, football is the ultimate team sport. It's many different body shapes and sizes. It's kids from all walks of life. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what your situation is, what your background is. When you put that jersey on, you put that helmet on, and you're all preparing all week long for that one goal, to win the week, win a championship. You just kind of come together. It's the ultimate family. It's the ultimate team sport, and it's just something that even from a director's standpoint now, I still love it. Like, I still love when game day comes around, even though I'm not involved in the day-to-day and I'm not on the field with the players. You know, it's just in my blood. I've played other sports. I've not to bash other sports. I love hockey. I love baseball, basketball. You know, I played most of them, but nothing resonated like football. It's the ultimate team sport, and I love it.
You're talking about how it takes all types in a football team. You've played at 2 different major levels of football, junior and university. I think you've probably been in a position to see where university fits certain athletes and junior fits certain athletes, and now you're running the Langley Rams. Can you see the fit for certain types of athletes and junior football? Maybe, you know, saying that university football sometimes isn't the be-all and end-all. There's different paths that you can take in the game. Absolutely.
And the one thing I'll say about junior football, one of many things I'll say, is that junior football, the level of junior football has come so far. I was actually very, very taken back and impressed when I got back involved with the Rams and just how far it's come, the quality and the level of coaching compared to when I played. It's grown by leaps and bounds. The talent. The CIS has grown as well. I mean, if I look back when I played CIS 15 years ago, and I turned the TV on this fall and watched, you know, UBC play in Laval, and you know, the game has evolved. The game has grown at all levels, in my opinion. The talent, and but with junior, junior offers an opportunity for it's kind of that unique league, because there's kids playing the game that have aspirations to play CIS. They have aspirations. Maybe they're good enough to get a sniff in the CFL straight out of junior, like Andrew Harris, Lauren Plant years back, Josh Bowden, guys like that. So it's an outlet for guys that are very good, but maybe they don't have aspirations of going to school and being an academic. Maybe they're at BCIT. Maybe they're working on a trade. But it allows you to play the game at a high level, and maybe it takes you into the CFL. Maybe that's the end of it. But you get to play till you're 22 years old at an extremely high level, and hopefully win a championship or play in some big games. You know, the gap has, in my opinion, closed a little bit between junior and CIS. It used to be an enormous step up. It's still a step up in my opinion, but the gap is closed. The quality of junior football is improved leaps and bounds.
Talk to me about that fit for a junior player in your mind. when they're studying a trade, because a career that leads through university isn't for every student athlete, is it?
No, it's not. It's certainly not. And the thing I try to tell kids is that if you're going to go play university football and you're just doing it strictly to play football, it may not be the best outlet for you. It may not be the best option. Universities, it's not cheap, it's expensive, and if you're not going to take school serious and you're not looking for a university degree, in business or what have you, you know what? Playing 5 years of junior football and kind of having a roadmap to your future, whether it be a trade or whether it be working your way up with a company or whatever the case is, it's a fantastic option. Because yeah, you're right. Not everybody's cut out for university. Not everyone's cut out for that workload. Not everyone's And if you're going to go to university and just kind of take 3 and 3 arts and sleep all day and just kind of hang out, play football, there's other options.
Talk to me about the type of athlete that comes into junior football that uses junior football as an opportunity to get reps, as an opportunity to develop physically and to develop in the game, that allows that individual to move on to university football. There's a role in that too, isn't there?
Absolutely. It's invaluable because it's that stepping stone. It allows you to play with a much higher level of competition that you play against in high school. It allows you to get some film together, playing against a higher level of competition. It allows you to get your grades in order. And there's a lot of guys that play with the Rams that are very serious about getting a scholarship and maybe going to UBC or SFU or traveling to the prairies or going back east to play or going down south. Maybe they didn't have their prerequisites and their grades in order, but they're training. They're training around the clock all year long, and the practices are very structured. They're run like university practices. Everything's down to the minute. Film, coaches prep like they do in the CIS, and playing junior football is invaluable for kids that maybe didn't get that look out of high school, but they still want to fulfill that dream and they want to play university football. Junior football is invaluable for that.
That does it for episode 2 of Touchdown BC. Hope everyone enjoyed it. Come back next week for more stories on BC amateur football. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you all next week.
Touchdown BC is sponsored by the Robertson Braun Group, Remax Kelowna. Thinking real estate in Kelowna? Think Blake Robertson, Marlene Braun. For more information, call 250-212-2888 or 250-878-5242.